Today, we are at a crossroads. The decisions we make will shape the future of this entire city.
Evelyn, you've built something that most people can't even dream of. Wealth, influence, power, all before turning 20.
It feels... And this is not the end. This is just the beginning.
What are you saying?
And Evelyn didn't answer. Not immediately. Because the truth wasn't something you could say into a microphone. The truth didn't belong on a stage. The truth was buried in blood. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the podium. For a brief second, her reflection flickered in the glass screen beside her, and she barely recognized the woman staring back. Perfect hair, diamond earrings, calm expression, a lie so polished. It looked real. Her lips parted slowly, and when she finally spoke, her voice was steady, but there was something beneath it, something fractured. It feels... She paused, her eyes drifting past the crowd, past the lights, past the illusion, like I survived something I wasn't supposed to. A ripple moved through the audience. Confusion, curiosity. The interviewer blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean by that? Evelyn's gaze sharpened slightly, as if she had just stepped too close to a memory she wasn't ready to touch. But it was already too late. Because in her mind, she wasn't standing under billion-dollar lights. She was standing in a dark hallway, her hands shaking, her breath uneven, and a voice screaming behind a locked door. 1 year earlier, Chicago, Illinois. The apartment smelled like burnt coffee and unpaid bills. Evelyn sat on the floor, her back pressed against the couch, laptop balanced on her knees, staring at lines of code that refused to work. Rain hammered against the windows. The electricity flickered once, twice, then steadied. Just like her life, barely holding together. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Not because she didn't want to, but because every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again. That night, that scream, that body. She slammed the laptop shut suddenly, her chest rising sharply as if the memory had physically hit her. "Stop it," she whispered to herself, dragging her hands through her hair. "You don't get to fall apart right now. Not again. Not when you've come this far just to barely stay alive." Her voice cracked at the end. Not because she was weak, but because she was exhausted. There was a difference. A loud knock shattered the silence. Evelyn froze. Her entire body stiffened, every muscle tightening as her eyes snapped toward the door. Another knock, harder this time. "Miss Hayes, open the door!" Her heart dropped. That voice, authority, cold, unforgiving. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Because there was only one reason someone like that would be here, and it meant one thing. They had found her. Again. "Miss Hayes, we know you're inside. This doesn't have to be complicated." Evelyn's hands started trembling uncontrollably now. Her mind raced, thoughts colliding, breaking, reforming into panic. "No, no, no, no. Not now," she muttered, standing up too quickly, nearly knocking over a stack of unpaid bills scattered across the floor. "I just need a little more time. Just a little more? I'm so close." The knocking grew louder, more aggressive. "You need to open this door now!" Evelyn stared at the door like it was a bomb seconds away from exploding. Then she laughed, a small, broken laugh. "You know what's funny?" she said quietly, her voice shaking as she backed away slowly. "I didn't even do anything, and somehow I'm still the one running." Her eyes burned, but no tears came. She didn't have any left, not after everything, not after him. Her gaze dropped to the laptop, then to the small USB drive sitting beside it. Everything she had built, every sleepless night, every piece of code, every risk, it was all in there. Her way out, her proof, her survival. Another slam on the door. "Last warning!" Evelyn exhaled slowly, then whispered something so soft it almost disappeared in the noise. "If I stay, I lose everything." She grabbed the USB drive, stuffed it into her pocket, and ran. The fire escape was slick with rain. Cold metal against her bare hands as she climbed down, her breath uneven, her heart pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. She didn't look back. Not at the apartment. Not at the life she was leaving behind. Because looking back meant remembering, and remembering meant breaking. She hit the ground hard, her sneakers splashing into a puddle as she stumbled forward, regaining balance just enough to keep running. Sirens echoed in the distance. Closer than she wanted, closer than they should be. "Keep moving," she muttered under her breath, her voice barely holding together. "You stop now. You're done. Everything you went through, everything you survived. It all becomes meaningless if you stop now." Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed, but she didn't slow down. Couldn't. Because somewhere behind her, a version of her life was collapsing. And ahead of her was nothing, just darkness, and the terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, she could still outrun the truth. 3 days later, a cheap motel on the outskirts of Nevada. The room was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that didn't comfort, it suffocated. Evelyn sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the USB drive in her hand like it held the answer to everything. Because it did. Or at least, it was supposed to. Her reflection stared back at her from the cracked mirror across the room. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair messy, face pale. A billionaire in the making, who looked like she hadn't eaten in days. She let out a slow breath. Then spoke, not to anyone else, but to herself. "You built this because you needed a way out. Not just from poverty, but from them. From what they think you did. From what they're going to do to you if they catch you again." Her voice hardened slightly. "And if this doesn't work, if this fails, then everything you sacrificed, everything you lost, it was all for nothing." Silence answered her. Heavy, unforgiving. Then, a soft knock. Evelyn's head snapped toward the door instantly, her entire body going rigid again. Not fear this time. Instinct. "Who is it?" She called out, her voice cautious, controlled. A pause. Then a voice. Calm. Older. Unexpected. Someone who knows you didn't do it. Everything inside her stopped. Her heart. Her breath. Her thoughts. Because those words, they weren't possible. They couldn't be. Slowly, carefully, Evelyn stood up, walked toward the door, and whispered, barely audible. "What did you just say?" The voice on the other side didn't hesitate. "I said, I know you didn't kill him." Evelyn's hand hovered over the doorknob, shaking, because if that was true, then everything was about to change, or fall apart completely, and she had no idea which one would happen first. The doorknob felt colder than it should have. Evelyn's hand hovered over it, trembling not from weakness, but from the weight of what waited on the other side. Because there were only two possibilities. Either this was the moment everything finally made sense, or the moment everything ended. Her breath slowed. In, out! Then she turned the handle. The door creaked open just enough for her eyes to meet his. A man in his late 50s stood there, gray hair neatly combed, a dark coat soaked slightly from the desert rain. But it wasn't his appearance that froze her. It was his expression. Calm. Too calm. Like a man who had already seen the ending of this story. Evelyn didn't open the door fully. "Say it again," she whispered. Her voice tight, controlled, but barely holding together. "Say exactly what you said before. And this time, don't leave anything out." The man studied her for a moment. Not judging, not rushing. Then he spoke slowly, deliberately. "I said, I know you didn't kill Daniel Mercer, and I didn't come here to turn you in. I came here because you're running out of time. And whether you realize it or not, you're about to walk straight into the trap they've been building for you." The name hit her like a physical blow. Daniel Mercer, her former business partner, her friend, the man whose blood had soaked into the hardwood floor the night her life shattered. Evelyn's grip tightened on the door. "You don't get to say his name like that," she snapped, her voice suddenly sharp, cracking with buried emotion. "You don't get to walk into my life out of nowhere and act like you understand what happened that night. You weren't there. You didn't hear him." Her voice broke. She swallowed hard, forcing the memory back down. "You didn't see what I saw." The man didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice. "You're right," he said quietly. "I wasn't there that night. But I've spent the last 11 months trying to figure out why every piece of evidence points to you, and yet none of it actually makes sense. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. And why would you care? She asked, suspicion creeping back in. Why would anyone care enough to chase a story like this across state lines? Unless you're being paid to find me, or worse, to make sure I don't make it out alive. A faint smile crossed his face. Not amused, but understanding. That's a fair question, he admitted. And if I were you, I wouldn't trust me either. But the truth is, I'm not here because of you. A beat of silence. Then why are you here? She demanded. His expression darkened slightly. I'm here because of my son. Something shifted in the air. Evelyn frowned. Your son? He worked at Mercer Technologies, the man continued. His voice steady but carrying something deeper underneath. Junior analyst. Smart kid. Too curious for his own good. Evelyn's mind raced. Faces, names, employees. Nothing clicked. I don't... He died, the man said flatly. The words cut through the room like glass. Evelyn froze. What? 3 weeks after Daniel Mercer was killed? He went on, his voice tightening just slightly. My son was found in his apartment. Official report said overdose. Case closed in less than 48 hours. Evelyn stared at him. That doesn't... He didn't use drugs, the man interrupted, his voice suddenly sharper. Not once in his life. But according to the system, according to the people who didn't bother to look deeper, he just decided to throw everything away and die quietly. His eyes locked onto hers now. But before he died, he called me. Evelyn's heart skipped. And what he told me, the man continued slowly, is the reason I've been chasing this truth ever since. Silence filled the space between them. Heavy, unavoidable. Evelyn swallowed. What did he say? The man stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the anger, the grief. He told me that Daniel Mercer wasn't the man the world thought he was, he said. He told me there were accounts, hidden ones, money moving in ways it shouldn't, deals being made with people who don't exist on paper. Evelyn's pulse quickened, because that was impossible. Daniel had been careful, transparent, at least. She thought he was. And then, the man continued, he said something that didn't make sense to me at the time. But now, standing here, looking at you, he paused. Let the weight of the moment settle. He said, if anything happens to me, tell Evelyn it wasn't supposed to go this far. The room went silent, completely silent. Evelyn felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her. No, she whispered, shaking her head slowly. That doesn't make sense. Daniel wouldn't, he couldn't. Couldn't what? The man pressed, his voice firm but not cruel. Couldn't lie to you? Couldn't build something behind your back? Couldn't drag you into something dangerous without telling you? Her breathing became uneven. No, he trusted me. We built everything together. Every line of code, every investor pitch, Then why did all the evidence point to you the night he died? The man cut in. The question hit harder than anything else, because she didn't have an answer, not one that made sense. Not one that explained why her fingerprints were on the knife, why the security footage showed her entering his apartment, but never leaving, why the police had looked at her like she was already guilty. Evelyn stepped back, her legs suddenly weak as she sat down on the edge of the bed. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. I didn't kill him. The man nodded. I know. Tears finally burned in her eyes. Not falling. Just there, waiting. I didn't kill him. She repeated, stronger this time, like she needed to hear it out loud to believe it herself. I remember arguing with him. I remember him saying something about pulling out of a deal. Something big, something dangerous. And then she stopped. Her expression shifted. Confusion, fear. And then I don't remember anything. The man didn't look surprised. Incomplete memory, he said quietly. That's not uncommon in cases like this. Evelyn looked up sharply. Cases like this? He reached into his coat slowly, carefully, pulling out a thin folder, then placed it on the table between them. I think you were set up, he said. Not just framed, but positioned, manipulated. Every piece of evidence, every detail. It's too clean, too perfect. Evelyn stared at the folder like it might explode. Why? The man's expression hardened. Because whatever Daniel Mercer got involved in, it wasn't just about money, he said. It was about control. And people like that don't just eliminate problems. He met her eyes. They replace them. A chill ran down her spine. Replace? You built the technology, didn't you? He asked. The predictive algorithm, the one investors couldn't stop talking about. Evelyn nodded slowly. Yes, but it wasn't finished. It needed data, he finished. Massive amounts of it. Behavioral patterns, financial flows, decision-making models. Her eyes widened. You think someone wanted it for themselves? I think someone already has it, he said. And the only thing standing in their way is you. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Evelyn's mind spun. Everything she believed. Everything she trusted. Cracking. What do you want from me? She asked finally. The man didn't hesitate. I want you to stop running. Her laugh was hollow. That's not an option. It is if you want the truth, he said firmly. Because running keeps you alive. But it also keeps you blind. And right now, you're the only person who can finish what you started. Evelyn looked down at her pocket. At the USB drive. Her entire future. And if I stay? She asked quietly. The man's voice dropped. Then you're stepping into a war you don't understand yet. A long pause. Then Evelyn stood. Slowly. Her fear was still there. Her doubt. Her pain. But something else had taken its place. Something sharper. Resolve. I've already lost everything, she said, her voice steady now. Stronger than before. My name, my life. The only person I thought I could trust. She looked up at him. So if there's even a chance that I can prove the truth, that I can make them pay for what they did. Her jaw tightened. I'm done running. For the first time, the man smiled. Not out of relief, but recognition. Good, he said, then reached into his coat again, pulled out a small photograph, and handed it to her. Evelyn took it, looked down, and her entire world stopped, because the person in the photo was standing next to Daniel Mercer, smiling. Alive and very, very familiar. Evelyn's lips parted slowly. That's not possible. Her voice barely existed now, because the face staring back at her was the same man who had interviewed her on stage, the same man the entire world trusted, the same man who had just called her a billionaire, the same man who knew exactly where she was. Evelyn looked up, her heart racing. He's supposed to be on my side. The man shook his head slowly. No, he said. He's the one who made sure you lost everything. The room felt smaller, colder, and suddenly, there was a knock on the door again. But this time, it wasn't gentle. The knock wasn't a knock. It was a warning. Sharp, controlled, final. Evelyn's entire body went still. Not fear, not panic. Something colder. Understanding. They found me, she whispered. Her voice almost calm now, but that calm came from a place that had already accepted the worst. The older man, Richard Hale, didn't move toward the door. Instead, he stepped back. Measured. Prepared. No, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the handle. They didn't find you. A pause. They followed the truth. The second hit harder, more aggressive. Miss Hayes, a voice called from the other side, smooth, confident, disturbingly familiar. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Evelyn's chest tightened, because she knew that voice, not from fear, but from something worse, trust. Her grip tightened around the photograph. Her voice dropped into something sharper, steadier than it had ever been. That's him. Richard didn't ask who. He already knew. Then this is where the story changes, he said quietly. Because once you open that door, you don't get to go back to running. Evelyn let out a slow breath. For months, she had been surviving. Running, hiding, doubting herself. But now she had something she didn't have before. The truth was starting to take shape. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. She was angry. The knock came again, softer this time, more controlled, like a man who already knew he would get what he wanted. Evelyn, the voice said, almost gently. I think we've both played this game long enough. You're too smart to keep pretending. You don't understand what's happening here. Silence. Heavy. Breathing slowed. Evelyn stepped forward. Each step deliberate. Each step a decision. She stopped in front of the door. Closed her eyes for one brief second. And in that second, everything flashed. Daniel's smile. The blood on the floor, the police lights, the nights in her car, the hunger, the fear, the loneliness, and the moment on that stage where she stood as the most powerful version of herself, but still carried all of it inside. Her eyes opened. Different now. Not broken. Not running. Something sharper. She unlocked the door and opened it. He stood there exactly as the world knew him. Perfect suit, perfect posture, perfect smile. Nathan Cole, the man who had interviewed her, the man who had introduced her to the world as a billionaire, the man who had built an empire in media and influence by controlling narratives and destroying the truth. His eyes met hers, and for a brief moment, something flickered behind that perfect mask. Not surprise, not fear. Recognition. Well, Nathan said softly, his smile widening just slightly. There she is. Evelyn didn't respond, didn't move, didn't blink. Because now that she was standing this close to him, she could feel it. The lie. Can I come in? He asked politely. Evelyn tilted her head slightly, her voice calm. Dangerously calm. You've already come this far, she said. Would it really matter if I said no? A brief pause. Then Nathan smiled. Fair enough. He stepped inside. His presence filled the room, not physically, but psychologically. Like everything around him adjusted to his control. His eyes flicked to Richard, a small, knowing smirk. I was wondering when you'd show up, Nathan said casually. You've been digging into places most people are too smart to touch. Richard didn't react. You killed your own narrative the moment you underestimated her, he said. Nathan chuckled softly. No, I created it, he replied. That's the difference. Evelyn's jaw tightened. Stop talking like this is some kind of game, she snapped, her voice finally breaking through with force. People are dead. Daniel is dead. His blood is on the floor because of whatever you dragged him into. So stop pretending this is about strategy and control. Like it's some business deal. Nathan turned to her slowly. And for the first time, his smile faded. What you still don't understand, he said quietly, is that Daniel made a choice. Evelyn stepped closer, anger rising. Don't you dare, she said, her voice shaking, not with weakness, but with the weight of everything she had held back for too long. Don't you dare stand here and try to twist what happened into something he chose. I was there. I heard him. He was scared. He wanted out. He wanted to fix whatever this was. And that, Nathan interrupted softly, is exactly why he had to be removed. The room went silent, completely silent. Evelyn stared at him. Removed? Nathan exhaled slowly, like a man explaining something simple to someone who just couldn't understand. He built something powerful, Nathan said, but power without control is chaos. And chaos is dangerous. Evelyn's hands clenched. You're talking about people like they're assets, she said. Nathan's gaze sharpened. Because in the world you stepped into, that's exactly what they are. A long pause. Then Evelyn laughed. But there was nothing light about it. You really believe that, don't you? She said quietly. You actually think you're justified. Nathan didn't hesitate. I think I'm necessary. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Terrifying. Evelyn stepped even closer now. Close. Enough that there was no space left between truth and illusion. And what about me? She asked. What was I supposed to be? Another asset? Another piece you move around until it's convenient to destroy? Nathan looked at her for a long moment. And then he smiled again. But this time, it wasn't cold. It was almost impressed. You were never meant to be destroyed, he said. You were meant to replace him. Everything inside her stopped. What? Nathan took a step forward, lowering his voice. You built the algorithm, Evelyn, he said. The predictive model. The thing that can see patterns before they happen. That kind of intelligence, it changes everything. Her breathing slowed. Because now it was starting to make sense. You didn't want Daniel, she whispered. You wanted what we built. Nathan nodded slightly. He became unstable, he said. He wanted to pull out, expose everything, destroy years of work. That kind of unpredictability, it's a liability. Evelyn's voice dropped. So you killed him? Nathan tilted his head. I corrected the problem, he said. Silence. Evelyn felt something inside her shift completely. Not fear, not anger, something colder, something final. And you framed me, she said. Nathan didn't deny it. It was the cleanest solution, he replied. Her lips parted slowly. And now? She asked. What happens now? Nathan stepped even closer. His voice softer, more persuasive. Now you stop running, he said. You come back. You take your place. You finish what you started with the right support this time. Evelyn stared at him. You think I would ever work with you? Nathan's expression didn't change. I think you don't have a choice, he said. Because if you don't, the version of you the world believes in, the billionaire, the genius, the success story, it disappears. A pause. And what's left, he added quietly, is a murderer. The words hit. Hard. But this time, Evelyn didn't break. She smiled. Just slightly, and it caught Nathan off guard. Do you know what the biggest mistake you made was? She asked softly. Nathan frowned. Evelyn reached into her pocket, pulled out the USB drive, held it up. You thought I was still the same person who ran, she said. Then, she looked straight into his eyes and said something that changed everything. I finished it. Nathan's expression froze. For the first time, uncertainty. What? He said quietly. Evelyn's smile widened slightly. The algorithm, she said. I didn't just finish it. I upgraded it. And the first thing it did, she paused. Let the silence stretch. Let the tension breathe. I was map every move you've ever made. The room shifted. Completely. Nathan's calm cracked, just enough. That's not possible, he said. Evelyn stepped closer. It already is, she replied. And then, sirens. Loud, close, closing in. Nathan's head turned sharply toward the window. Red and blue lights flashing across the walls. Richard smiled slightly. Looks like the truth caught up, he said. Nathan turned back to Evelyn. His voice lower now. Dangerous. You think this ends here? He said. Evelyn shook her head slowly. No, she said. This is where it starts. Police pounded on the door. Federal agents, open up! Nathan's eyes locked onto hers one last time. And for the first time, he looked like a man who had lost control. Evelyn stepped back. The same man who had just called her a billionaire. The same man who knew exactly where she was. Evelyn looked up, her heart racing. He's supposed to be on my side. The man shook his head slowly. No, he said. He's the one who made sure you lost everything. The room felt smaller, colder, and suddenly, there was a knock on the door again. But this time, it wasn't gentle. The knock wasn't a knock. It was a warning. Sharp, controlled, final. Evelyn's entire body went still. Not fear, not panic. Something colder. Understanding. They found me, she whispered. Her voice almost calm now, but that calm came from a place that had already accepted the worst. The older man, Richard Hale, didn't move toward the door. Instead, he stepped back. Measured. Prepared. No, he said quietly, eyes fixed on the handle. They didn't find you. A pause. They followed the truth. The second hit harder, more aggressive. Miss Hayes, a voice called from the other side, smooth, confident, disturbingly familiar. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Evelyn's chest tightened, because she knew that voice, not from fear, but from something worse, trust. Her grip tightened around the photograph. Her voice dropped into something sharper, steadier than it had ever been. That's him. Richard didn't ask who. He already knew. Then this is where the story changes, he said quietly. Because once you open that door, you don't get to go back to running. Evelyn let out a slow breath. For months, she had been surviving. Running, hiding, doubting herself. But now she had something she didn't have before. The truth was starting to take shape. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. She was angry. The knock came again, softer this time, more controlled, like a man who already knew he would get what he wanted. Evelyn, the voice said, almost gently. I think we've both played this game long enough. You're too smart to keep pretending. You don't understand what's happening here. Silence. Heavy. Breathing slowed. Evelyn stepped forward. Each step deliberate. Each step a decision. She stopped in front of the door. Closed her eyes for one brief second. And in that second, everything flashed. Daniel's smile. The blood on the floor. The police lights. The nights in her car. The hunger. The fear. The loneliness. And the moment on that stage, where she stood as the most powerful version of herself, but still carried all of it inside. Her eyes opened. Different now. Not broken. Not running. Something sharper. She unlocked the door. And opened it. He stood there exactly as the world knew him. Perfect suit. Perfect posture. Perfect smile. Nathan Cole. The man who had interviewed her. The man who had introduced her to the world as a billionaire. The man who had built an empire in media and influence by controlling narratives and destroying the truth. His eyes met hers. And for a brief moment, something flickered behind that perfect mask. Not surprise, not fear. Her voice calm. Unbreakable. It's over. The door burst open. Agents flooded in. Chaos, movement, shouting. But in the middle of it all, Evelyn stood still. Not as the girl who ran, not as the woman who was framed, but as the person who survived it all and turned the truth into power. Months later, Madison Square Garden. The lights returned. The crowd roared. And this time, when they called her name, Evelyn didn't see the past. She didn't feel the fear. She didn't hear the silence. Because now, she knew exactly how she got here. Through loss, through betrayal, through a truth no one else could survive. She stepped forward, accepted the award, and when the microphone reached her, she spoke, not as a victim, but as something far stronger. The world doesn't reward truth, she said slowly. It rewards control, and for a long time, I thought I had neither. The crowd was silent, listening. But the truth is, control doesn't come from power, she continued. It comes from surviving what was meant to destroy you and choosing to stand anyway. A pause, her eyes steady, unshaken. And I'm still standing. The crowd erupted. But this time, she didn't flinch. Because the story wasn't about how she survived. It was about who she became after. And no one would ever control that again. If this story touched your heart even a little, then don't just scroll away. There are so many people out there, still fighting, still hoping, still waiting for someone to notice them. If you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us for more real powerful journeys. Because sometimes, one story can change everything.